What key trends do you anticipate shaping the investment scenario in 2024? And how can investors position themselves to leverage these trends? Let's have your thoughts on Nivesh Mahakum 2024 on this fireside chat.
Thank you, Gautam, and wish all our viewers here happy New Year. Okay, so just to look at last year was a pretty eventful year, right? I mean, nobody thought that the markets could do well, right? On the back of various challenges, what we saw, right? We saw there was a concern about U.S. recession, which was kind of likely to be there. We saw sharp rate increases in the U.S. There were geopolitical tension, okay, which was there, and despite that, we saw that the markets really did very well. Also, as we move forward, right, in 2024 calendar year, some of the trends what we see comparing to last year, like last year in 2023, we saw that there were a lot of big themes which played out, the macro trends which played out big time. Like, for example, if you look at few sectors like the capital goods sectors, industrials, the PSUs, the auto sector for that matter, the real estate sector. I mean, these sectors give very large outsized returns, right? Vis-a-vis the Nifty, if you look at it. And so we think that the large, big macro trends, okay, which played out last year, I think that will probably not be the case because a lot of these themes have played out. It will probably be more stock specific as we move into 2024, and that's a kind of a trend what we see. Also, last year the breadth of the market was very big, right? We saw huge rally in the mid cap and the small cap segment. In fact, the mid cap and the small cap indices, okay, gave a return of almost 50%, whereas Nifty gave a return of around 20% or so. So, and the breadth was very good. What it means is that there were many stocks, right, in the BSE 500, okay, which were trading above the 200-day moving averages or made new highs over there. And I think that was as a result of the large euphoria, I would say, the retail money which came into the market. I think this year we think that the large caps segment, if you look at the large mega cap stocks, they are relatively attractive, okay, in terms of valuations. In fact, if you look at the returns in the last 3 years or last 2 years for the large cap, it's mostly come out from the earnings growth, right? Not so much from a P re-rating. Whereas in the mid cap and the small cap segment, 50% of the returns is coming from P re-rating and 50% from earnings growth. So there is good margin of safety in the large caps. So we think that the risk reward going forward is much better in the large cap stocks. Mid and small caps slightly cautious, but from a near term perspective, you could see more volatility over there. But from a longer term perspective, I think mid and small caps will also do reasonably well because we are positive on the India growth story, and potentially the earnings growth in the small cap and mid cap would be slightly better than the large cap, so that should compensate for any kind of a higher valuation. Okay, what we are seeing. So and I think again, I think the returns in the market, like this year we're expecting kind of moderate returns because bulk of the re-rating has happened in anticipation. If you look at what drives the market in terms of sentiments are at a pretty high level at this point in time, right? Sentiments are good, so we don't see any further improvement over there. If at all, there could be some disappointments. Valuations are kind of reasonable or slightly above the long-term average, and liquidity situations should continue to remain good. Like this year, again, India remains a fairly good market in a global backdrop where you will see growth slowing down, right? So you will see FI flows into the markets, okay, will potentially continue even in this year. And the biggest trend this year is going to be the talk about or the fact that you'll see interest rates coming down, right? Both in the US.
How do you foresee the impact of upcoming elections on the Indian economy? Because it's not just India, there's globally, there's a lot of elections happening. And what strategies, in your opinion, can investors employ to navigate potential market fluctuations, especially during election years?
Yeah, so you're right. Actually, this is a year where we are seeing almost like more than close to 60% of the world economy, right, going in for elections, and that means that in a way, it one can say it can lead to some volatility, but the way I look at it is that we are since we have elections in most of the large economies, the central governments there will not go in for any fiscal consolidation. That means they would not like anything which will disrupt the economic growth, and even geopolitical risks, okay, which were kind of which is still around the corner. I think none of the governments will try and want to do anything which will escalate that. So that's on the positive side. But as you know, election outcomes are hard to predict. Okay, what will happen, and markets tend to really enter into this the event in anticipation at times, right? So that can lead to some volatility. But what we have seen in the past, especially in India, is that post the elections, even if there is a correction because of some disappointment, the market after the next 6 months usually again bounces back, right? And the momentum what it has built before that in terms of the economy and in fundamental, I think that continues to sustain. So I don't think investors need to be too worried about the election outcome. Okay, it's for long-term investors specifically. Again, to tide over that volatility, I think the best way to is to continue with your SIP or steady investments. And if there is any kind of volatility or a downward correction, I think that can be used as opportunity. And assuming that fundamentally, I think the economy is in a fairly good shape. And more importantly, I think in India, it's point to notice that in the last 8 to 10 years, we have seen large, big ticket reforms, okay, which have been undergone, and the benefit of that, you will see that going forward now. And any new government which comes in, I think the heavy lifting has already been done, right? So they would probably continue with the same policy. So we don't see any major reason, okay, for investors to be worried. Obviously, pre-election, if there's a rally, okay, then there could be some kind of a sell-off. But again, just continue with your SIP, and that's the best strategy in this kind of an environment.
An investor education and awareness initiative of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.